Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 100 of Real Hawk Talk.
Really? That's
Yes,
exciting.
episode 100. We had all these great plans for it, and then we were just too lazy to do anything about it. So we're just going to talk about it. I'm Brian Nemhauser, one of your hosts for the show tonight. We are going to be previewing the Seahawks versus the Falcons, week one of the 2020 season. After just watching the Chiefs dismantle the Texans on the first game of the 2020 NFL season. And with me, we've got a great crew tonight. First, we'll bring in Dana O'Gorman at Dana OG on Twitter. And if I'm not mistaken, Dana, you are in football country right now. Where are the games going on? Is that right?
I am. Yes, I actually live in Kansas City, and this town is it's nuts. It has been since February, so everything is red. Everything's covered in Chiefs gear. It's a little crazy, but they're really excited. It was a long 50 years for them, so I'm pretty happy for them too.
Yeah, I'm kind of happy the Chiefs won a Super Bowl, not only because they beat the 49ers, which was awesome and appreciated, but there's a lot of teams where, or there's at least a few teams where if they win, you kind of just don't like that they won. I don't really care that the Chiefs won, and the fans are good fans, and they've been good fans and loyal fans, and they've been a long time without a trophy. So I was really happy that they got one. Feel a little bad for them that they didn't get to be, full house tonight to have that first game after when you raise the banner. But yeah, it's cool to see, and the home team seems to have done their job. So yeah. Next, we've got Jeff Simmons at Real Jeff Simmons, and happy to have you on, dude. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm so happy to watch football. It feels like it's been so long with no preseason. And also, this audible by you guys at the last minute worked out great because my Raptors in Toronto somehow won last night, and Game 7 would have been during our show tomorrow. So I would have had to try to multitask, and I might have been a mess. So this really worked out.
I think so. The people spoke. We gave them some choices, and people wanted it tonight. I think that was the right choice. People want their Friday nights open. And Jeff, I do have to say, man, hey, hearty handshake from across the globe here. You and I were on episode 1, so we've made it. We've made it to 100, man. Congrats.
I was gonna say, what episode did Nathan and I cram ourselves into? When did that begin?
You guys on for some I don't know why we did it. I still ask myself to.
Clearly, it was a great mistake.
It was like episode 4 or 5 or something.
4 or 5. Okay.
Yeah.
Because
I said you got sick of me, so we needed to change it up.
No,
well, I remember you guys brought on Aaron Levine as one of the first few episodes, right? I don't think that was.
It might have been episode 1 even.
I remember the first guest we got was either Aaron or. Who was the guy who wrote that big SI? It was ESPN Seahawks story.
I know who you're talking about.
That was the guy we got.
Seth Wickerson.
Yeah, Seth was our first guest.
Wickerson.
And he was willing to come on. And Mike Garofalo came on one of the first episodes, driving in a car at training camp. And
yeah, we've had Kenny Mayne. We've had all sorts of amazing guests on the show, and it's funny. Early on, we really struggled with technology. Like the Aaron Levine interview basically was unlistenable. And then in the middle, when Google changed everything on us, we really struggled with technology.
We were so nervous about that, Brian.
I
remember
know.
The nights we stayed up. Well, maybe I stayed up sweating my ass off, worried that this wasn't going to work. And Zoom ended up probably being a better shift actually for us, I think.
It has. And you were a huge part of figuring all that out. So that was great. But those that don't know, that was Evan Hill at Evan in SEA, our fourth co-host of the night. Welcome in, Evan. So folks, my goodness, it is week 1 and the Seahawks are playing a game, and we weren't even sure this was going to happen, right? I remember in the Real Hawk Talk chat, there was I don't know, is this NFL season really going to happen or not? And now I think we're all pretty sure it's going to happen, not only this week, but probably in a sustainable way. So Jeff, let's start with you. As you kind of look at the Seahawks heading into the season, we've done our predictions and a bunch of stuff there. We've heard a little bit more about depth chart and some information there. Kind of curious, like what's your kind of feeling going into this game? What is the what are a couple of the Seahawks that you're really kind of eager to see?
Well, the obvious one is I'll get a little deeper after is Jamal Adams. The Seahawks have never had a player like this, really. Even Cam Chancellor, this guy is different. Just the way he can just change the game defensively, the way he can blitz, the way he can just like if you watch the Chiefs and they'll get so much attention, the way the Honey Badger came in and kind of changed their whole defensive mentality and the way he moves around. Adams is a better version of that. So having a guy like that, we talked so much about safety play last year. So having maybe the best one in the league, I'd say obviously him. And if I'm going to go the other side of the ball, I'm interested to see Ethan Posick. And Posick is a guy that none of us thought would win the center job. We all thought BJ Finney would clearly win that job. And when Posick came out of LSU, he was a pretty good center. And oddly enough, Posick has never played a game at center in the NFL. That sums up the Seahawks offensive line scouting and development, that a center's never played center before. But I'm interested to see how he does, because if he's one of these run-of-the-mill classic Seahawk offensive linemen, it's a big blow to a group that needs to get better. But if he's a solid foundation, middle-of-the-road guy, like that's a big deal for this line. So I'm kind of excited to see how he holds up. They're playing Grady Jarrett week 1, so that's an interesting test. So, yeah, I'd say Posick and Jamal Adams.
Those are interesting calls, and I love the Jamal Adams pick, not just because it's, obviously we're all interested in that, but I think anyone that was watching that game and saw Honey Badger get that pressure, that was it. That led to the interception, and you're like, Adams is a better pass rusher. He's the best pass rusher maybe ever at the defensive back position. And we haven't really seen that. Even when there was Cam and Earl, those guys were not quarterback pressure safeties. We talk about Troy Polamalu. That was a guy that would sometimes get after the quarterback, but we didn't have guys that were like that. So this is a bit of a unique situation in that regard. I think it is going to be fun to see if the Seahawks are able to utilize him. And I think the Posick's a great call, because I think we all kind of assume that maybe he's getting that out of default because he's been in the offense and he knows the line calls. But you're right. I mean, he was a highly regarded center. People actually supported that pick outside of Seattle because of his center play. But then the Seahawks played him everywhere but there up until this year.
So people thought he was a right tackle.
I mean, and I'll tell you, no hyperbole at all. I saw Ethan Posick play right tackle as a rookie in training camp in one-on-one pass rush drills, and he was a much better pass protector than Jermaine Ifedi. Much better. But they were like, no, we're going to play Ifedi because he's a better run blocker. And so I am hopeful that Posick maybe is a guy that can hold up at center. I think Britt was better at center than he was at guard or tackle, and I think Posick was a better guard than Britt was Posick is a better guard than Britt was a guard. So I think there's a reason to think that maybe Posick can be a better center than Britt.
I just realized something. Are the Seahawks giving both Britt and Posick their first shots at center in their third year in the NFL? Because I remember they moved Britt around, right?
I think it's fourth year for Posick, isn't it?
Yeah, I think Posick's been around.
Oh, no way. Is he in his fourth year?
Yeah,
this is last year's contract.
So, yeah.
Oh, that sucks, because if he's good, then it's like
you're gonna have to pay him.
Exactly. Yeah, you're right. Fourth year. Wow. Okay.
Dana, how about you? I mean, who are the folks that you're most interested in seeing going into Sunday?
Well, I have to agree on Adams. I was sitting here. My son came over to watch the football game for a little bit tonight, and we were watching the beginning, and they were doing, all the videos that the players had done, Black Lives Matter and things like that. And Jamal Adams came on the screen, and I looked at Hayden. I said, I don't think I've quite wrapped my brain around the fact that he plays for Seattle, because we haven't gotten to see him yet. I'm excited to see him on the field in the uniform playing. I got me real excited for the season. I'm not gonna lie. But other than that, I am a big believer in the second year jump for players. I think that is really true for a lot of players. You see that huge jump. The game slows down. They, have their feet underneath of them. And so I'm starting to buy in. Not that I didn't buy in last year, but I'm really buying into DK Metcalf this year. Really buying into him this year. I hope he doesn't let me down, because I'm not an offense lover. I'm a defense lover, and so I always am like, meh, wide receivers, whatever, move on. But I'm excited to see what he can do. And this might be, kind of silly of me, but I'm interested in seeing how they're going to use Greg Olsen at tight end. I think that veteran presence, and he's so I hate to say when football players, I hate to say this about him, but he's so football smart. Like it's just fun to watch him play. And so I think it'll be interesting to see how Seattle decides to use him. He's obviously not an every down player, but I think it could be fun to get him in there.
I think those are interesting. Like that DK I'm going last on this one, and he would have been my number one. I
think it's fun.
I think he's one of the best players in the whole league, and I think he's going to show that this year. And
I hope he doesn't prove us wrong.
I don't know. There's usually those points where you feel like, oh man, am I out over my skis, and am I going to regret this? I don't think that guy's. I don't think it's possible with him. I think the arrow is straight up on him, and I think. Like on the turf, against a bad secondary, I'm just like, oh my goodness. Like I want to see him just go off on Sunday. Like that would
make me very
that would
happy.
be amazing. All right, Evan, how about you? Like what are the players that you're like most excited
There's got to be one, a clear answer here from him.
Yeah, we all know one.
I actually have no.
Rashad Penny isn't playing.
Was this a Jason Myers joke? Was that what it was?
No. No, that's not what I was referring to.
Me neither.
What? Oh, Marquise Blair?
Yeah.
Let's go. Yes. Blair hype train. KJ has crowned him as of today.
Wait. So is this the same KJ who crowned Tedrick Thompson?
Hey, you win some, you lose some. So, 50-50.
To be fair.
Okay, I'm going to go with a sort of underrated group that we've all been discussing a lot. I'm really curious to see how this defensive line performs on Sunday, both in pass rush and in run defense. Actually, more particularly run defense. Atlanta is not a super great running football team. Like they were ranked, I think, like 20th in run offense of DVOA last year, but they love to run the football. And guess who they added this offseason? Todd Gurley from the Rams, who was cut. This is going to be a little bit of an early test, in my opinion, particularly against the run game. I actually don't really, I get Jeff's answer of like Jamal Adams and stuff like that, but I really think the secondary is going to cause problems for the Falcons. I'm really not worried about Calvin Ridley or Julio. I believe in the talent, the grades. Yeah, I as a passing lover, as a let Russ cook type of guy, like I'm more interested to see how this team holds up in run defense on Sunday. I really am.
That's
Atlanta was 29th in rushing yards last year.
Yeah, that's not surprising. So my point is, like, if they struggle on Sunday, it might not be a good foreshadow.
Yeah. And we'll talk a little bit more about Atlanta for sure. Offensive line is one of the big question marks for the Falcons, and we know how that feels. But you guys hit on a lot of them. I think Jeff especially, I think you picked some unique ones that stand out to me. But like man, I could just go through the whole roster, as I'm sure you guys could as well. DK would have definitely been my first. Blair certainly is up there. Jamal is up there, but I really want to see Jaron Reed. Like, is he going to be a guy that is anything more than a guy? Like, I think that would be big. And I'm kind of thinking about like, what are the guys that if they stood out on Sunday, it would mean that maybe the ceiling's a little bit higher for this team. Like, who are those guys?
It's I'll give you an answer right now.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's Benson Mayowa.
Mhm.
It's LJ Collier.
Oh yeah, that's one of them.
It's Rasheem Green.
Mhm.
It's those guys that are just big, big fat question marks. And if they show up and all of a sudden this defensive line is a little bit better than we expected, maybe much better than we expected, I think the ceiling for this team raises significantly.
That's it. I mean, like, just imagine. I mean, even like, okay, you're all on the record. There are receipts right now. If the Seahawks have a good pass rush on Sunday, and let's say that's 3 or 4 sacks, 10 plus pressures, whatever the numbers would be that we'd feel good about. Can we all agree that will matter, regardless of whether the Falcons' offensive line is good or bad? Because the Seahawks faced plenty of crappy offensive lines last year and couldn't generate a pass rush. So if they do it, let's not do the thing where we come back, well, the Falcons are really crappy, so it doesn't matter. Like, I hate that.
Hold up. Atlanta in pass protection per Football Outsiders was top 13 last year. They were 13. So, I mean, that's good, right?
Yeah. I
mean, know there's different measures you can go by.
Measures. Yeah. I think they're pretty iffy. I mean, Jake Matthews is
I wouldn't call them bottom half of the league though, right?
Yeah, Alex Mack's there.
Yeah, like
both of them had down years last year.
James Carpenter.
Yeah, well, he's not. Is he still there?
Yeah, he's the left guard.
Yeah. Are you sure?
I believe so.
Yeah.
The guy from UW is the right tackle.
Yeah, McGarry's the right tackle. He struggled a lot, and I had thought that they had a different left guard this year, but I could be wrong. I'll pull it up. But in any event, I just want, especially Evan, you're on the record that if they have a good pass rush, you're not going to undermine it come next week.
No, if they have a good pass rush, I'll be excited. But I don't think in any way it's like, oh, time to circle the wagons and celebrate. Like, you know what I mean?
Celebrate this much, Evan. Do you have it in you? Just a little bit, just a smidge.
To do what? What was that?
Celebrate just a little bit.
If we see signs of a pass rush on Sunday, I'll be excited. Don't get me wrong. Because we rarely saw signs of a pass rush in 2019. So that would be an upgrade.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think you're right on the defensive line. I think the other thing is on offensive line, Damian Lewis.
That's a big one.
We have not seen Damian Lewis take a snap.
I haven't seen anybody.
Oh my gosh. Like this guy, if he's good, if we see some snaps of him just mowing guys down or pass protecting well.
Oh, Brian, stop. You're just
this is getting sexual for her.
Yeah, I was gonna say this is like getting too
Dana, you need to be aware that Evan in football have
particularly good offensive linemen who happen to play for the Seahawks. Whew, nothing gets me going like that.
What? I can't imagine because everything gets me going. Just fair.
Yeah, I mean, and I was gonna ask, like, are you guys expecting the Seahawks to come out and establish the run, or are you expecting them to come out and look a little different on offense, pass a little bit more, pass a little bit in different situations? What's your expectation? It's a hot topic. I'd like to understand what you guys are thinking is going to happen in this game. Dana?
Well, I mean, here's the thing. Running gets a team nowhere. Just look at that Chiefs game right now. So, where they are running the ball more than they ever have. Just saying. But no, this is what's driving me crazy about not having preseason. I don't know, because literally we're all playing ghosts, right? Like we have no idea what's going to happen. But I do think just from Russell's comments, the few things that he has said where he's like, I'd like to not have to wait to the fourth quarter to throw the ball all the time. And just those little things, I can't imagine they would have been completely ignored. So I don't think we're going to see the same old, that we've seen for the last few years out of them. I can see them shaking it up. And from KJ's, the mentions he had to, what he said today about how they're changing their defense up a little bit makes me think maybe they looked at the whole situation and offense will get a change too. I still think they're going to run a lot. I don't think that's going to change much, but maybe Evan will get his passing percentage lifted up.
I'm not convinced there's going to be any significant changes on the run pass splits, but you know what I think is going to be a significant change is the pace at which they
Run plays.
Yeah, exactly.
That would be nice because that's frustrating.
That's something that was kind of talked about, I feel like, towards the end of last year. Russell hinted at it quite a few times. I could see them going up tempo. Exactly. And honestly, Russell, haven't we seen it like statistically? Like this offense is much better in hurry up mode. Like
they have been for years.
Yeah, it just seems like an obvious change to make.
Yeah.
So
it always seems like they're snapping at like the last second of the play clock. And
I could see them picking it up this year for some just a gut feeling.
It seems like such a struggle every year.
Well, I mean, I know I'm in the tiny minority, or at least the minority on nerdy Twitter, but probably the majority on the rest of Twitter, or at least Seahawks fans. But everyone's like, "Oh, the Seahawks never change." I mean,
they
changed massively in terms of how they played defense last year, playing Tampa 2, playing base. They changed actually on offense more than people want to acknowledge. Evan, you might remember this when one of the pods last year, I was looking at the numbers. They made one of the largest jumps you remember 2 years ago, we were so frustrated about second and long runs, 2nd and 10, 2nd and 11. They would run the ball. They made one of the biggest jumps in terms of moving to passing in those situations last year. So it's not like they don't make any changes. I think that people just want more. And so, I think there is a chance that they're going to be coming out and try to take advantage of a weak secondary from the Falcons.
Anybody who thinks the Seahawks don't change doesn't follow the Seahawks. Like, I'll give you a prime example. You know what I bitch about all the time is not going for it on 4th and short. But if we remember something, early in Pete Carroll's tenure with the Seahawks, he used to be called Hormonal Pete, who would go for it on 4th down and was a little more risque, and they've gotten more conservative in recent years. So I absolutely think they're capable of changing.
So as we kind of look through, we talked about the Seahawks, some of the Seahawks players we're looking forward to, and the ones that would be big bellwethers. A lot of people in the chat are bringing up DJ Dallas, and none of us have talked about him. What do you guys think is like a what do you guys think is a reasonable expectation? What would be a good game for DJ Dallas coming into this? What are you guys expecting from him? And let's start with you, Jeff.
I think he's going to be the 3rd down running back. And I think I saw today that Shoddy said he wants to get all 4 guys carries. So that was kind of odd, but I think he's going to be an opening series 3rd down running back. Carlos Hyde isn't that. Chris Carson wasn't great at catching the ball in the backfield, and Dallas is supposed to be a great pass protector that can kind of play that CJ Procise role. So
how do you feel about the 4? I'm not 4 guys all getting snaps. I don't want Travis Homer getting snaps.
No, I was.
Hold up. He didn't say carries. He said playing time. That's an important distinction.
I'm calling bullshit.
I don't want to see Travis Homer getting snaps. I'm sorry.
No. Maybe on special teams.
Yeah. But okay, Evan, what about you? What are you thinking about for DJ Dallas?
Yeah, I think I'm going to go the Cable Thanos approach perspective here. I think DJ Dallas is going to be a big surprise on offense this year, particularly in 3rd down duties. We saw what CJ Procise could do when he was healthy. He's going to be over 4 years. I think he's going to be a very capable sort of safety outlet for Russell. And I wouldn't be surprised if we saw, specifically on Sunday, like 2 to 3 big 3rd down conversions from DJ Dallas. I could really see that.
Dana, you have any hopes and dreams for DJ Dallas?
Just like I said, when we were on one other time, that I only got contacted about 2 of our draft picks, and DJ Dallas was one of them. They said that was a huge deal for us, and that they, for Seattle, and that they were a little surprised that, he was where he was at. Everyone who watched him play a lot in Florida liked, was he Miami or Florida? I can't remember. Miami. And he just was really impressed with the kid and really liked him. I'm interested by what you said about what Shoddy said about the running backs. Do you guys think, and this is just a little theory I have in my head, that maybe the whole running back by committee, which we know won't really happen. Carson will get the majority of them, but is because all of them went down last year. So they're trying to save, some, I don't know if they're trying to save some wear and tear on them. I don't know, maybe so that they can all get some time in before they all start dropping like flies. I mean, it just is, it seems that, and that's my theory about whether they start to throw a little bit more this year too, is that a little, PTSD from losing every running back you had last year.
Yeah, I think it's a good point. I don't really know what to expect from DJ Dallas. I guess my expectation is going to be the third down back.
Yeah.
I expect that Hyde and Carson are going to split early down carries. And I expect that they're going to target him in the passing game. He'll be primarily a pass protector in those situations, but he'll also, catch swing passes and things like that. That's really what I'm expecting from him. And if he can just seem like another weapon on offense, that would be great. I am curious, one of the things that's going to matter for those guys is the offensive line. We talked about that.
Yeah.
As far as the injury report goes, pretty clean overall.
Today was a little weird though.
Well, let's talk about it. So Dwayne Brown was limited yesterday. He did not practice today. I think that's because he's just getting kind of veteran, they're just taking it easy with him and managing him. But there's some other pieces. So like, where are you guys on the injury report? I can bring it up if that helps.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and call out the one that was concerning to me. So Will Dissly appeared on the injury report today as limited, I believe, with an Achilles. The concern I have is not that he appeared as limited. Well, let me put it this way. It's that he wasn't on the injury report yesterday and is today. So it's not I can't definitively say it's a rest day, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to remember. I'm out of practice at this point, but my recollection is that Thursdays are the days that they tend to rest the vets.
Clowney got a lot of Thursdays off last year.
Yeah, so I just am not looking too much at the Thursday. We've got a few guys that were limited. There's Cedric Agboyi. You've got Dwayne, who did not practice. You've got Philip Dorsett, who was limited. Dissly was limited, and Jamarco Jones was limited. So
all their tackles.
Yeah. So I don't know. Is any of that concerning to anyone here?
Let's see what happens tomorrow on the injury report.
I'm not that concerned. I think that well, especially for Brown for sure. I think they're just resting. He's 35 and they're giving him a minute. You know what I mean? So I think that's probably that. With Dissly, I don't know. Maybe they just don't want to, tax him too much at first. I don't know. It just doesn't. It seems weird that these things just pop up out of nowhere, and we hadn't heard of an injury, we hadn't heard of or anything like that. That it just kind of showed up, and that it was limited instead of did not practice. It doesn't worry me as much.
Yeah, I mean, on the Falcons side, there's a little more concerning if I'm a Falcons fan. Marlon Davidson, their second round pick, defensive tackle, who's a big part of, I think, what they're trying to pair with Grady Jarrett. He went from limited practice on Wednesday to did not practice today. Mm-hmm. He's certainly not getting veteran rest. Kendall Sheffield, who's been a starter for them at times, I think he's expected to be a backup cornerback, has not practiced yet this week. And then AJ Terrell, who took Sheffield's spot, their rookie first round pick, went from full practice on Wednesday to limited practice with a hamstring.
Oh, wow.
Concerning, but if you get a hamstring, you never know. So I'd be a little bit concerned if I was a Falcons fan. All right. So let's talk about this matchup. I mean, the Falcons were a team last year that were pretty good passing. And they actually passed more than any other team in the NFL as a percentage of plays. They were awful running, as Evan talked about. They struggled with their offensive line. They have terrific receivers in Julio Jones and Calvin Ridley. They had Austin Hooper, who was a terrific tight end, and they've now replaced him with Hayden Hurst, who a lot of people are high on, but I would say it's going to be hard for him to be better than Austin Hooper. And then you've got defense, which was awful for most of the year and then got better. They were tied for the Seahawks in terms of pass rush with 28 sacks, and got most of those in the back half of the season. secondary has been a mess, but this year they get Keanu Neal back, who's a big part of their secondary. They got a great linebacker in Deion Jones. So, that's kind of the overview of this Falcons team. Where, as a Seahawks fan, Jeff, where do you want to see the Seahawks attack, and where are you worried that the Falcons have an advantage?
I think the obvious place to attack is the cornerbacks. So if you remember the Tampa game plan last year, where the game plan just looked so obvious and we were all worried that Shoddy and them were going to beat their heads against the wall, but they came out throwing from the first drive, and I think the offense put up 40 points that day. And I looked at the PFF numbers of Atlanta's corners last year, and they were some of the worst corners in the league. And Tyler Lockett had a great game in Atlanta last year. DK Metcalf had 2 touchdowns in Atlanta last year. And now the guy who was supposed to cover them, Sheffield, AJ Terrell, they're both banged up. So their corners are really ranked low on PFF, and they struggled last year pretty seriously against our players. So Lockett and Metcalf got to be the big part of this game plan. They are huge. Keanu Neal is probably going to cover the tight ends. He's a big factor that wasn't there last year. On the other side of the ball, in terms of Brian's other question, the thing that worries me is the elephant in the room. Matt Ryan passes more than any other quarterback. One of his best elements is how quickly he gets the ball out. He's really hard to move off the spot. You saw it in some of those playoff games in the past with Seattle. He's really good when he gets in rhythm. And if the Seahawks rush, especially up the middle, can't get anything going, as good as we think the Seahawks secondary is, they got 2 great receivers, a potentially good tight end. If they get in rhythm, they're going to be really hard for the stop with no rush. So this is kind of their big issue and their big supposed strength kind of coming on the nail. And if things don't work, our post-game show might get a little scary. So it's a tough matchup to see if the pass rush can affect the game, because Matt Ryan is just, he's a rhythm quarterback. And when he gets going, you got to move him off the spot.
It's true. And he also gets rid of the ball very quickly. Mm-hmm. And so, to your point, Jeff, the Falcons' best cover corner last year was Desmond Trufant. He's not on the team anymore. So not only did they struggle in coverage last year, but their best cover corner is gone, and they're replacing him with a rookie who has not yet proven himself and now has a hamstring injury. Like, there are some serious questions for them in the secondary. Even with Keanu Neal is, I think, a great player. He's not a great coverage guy. He's a run support guy. So, yeah, Evan, what about you? I mean, what are you thinking about here in terms of, like, where's your concern about how the Seahawks can hold up against the Falcons?
Yeah. Let me pass this one over to Dana before I answer. I want to go last.
Go ahead. Yeah, Dana, do you have thoughts on this?
Well, really, when you just look at the numbers from last year, I mean, Seattle played there last year. They won 27-20. I think that for the most part, as long as it's not a playoff game, Seattle does okay with Atlanta. And I think the familiarity between the coaches helps both sides probably equally, but they both know each other so well. But this is going to come down to the defenses. I think the offenses can be really kind of tit for tat, especially with the wide receivers we have now. I mean, who was out there comparing DK to Julio? I mean, I think that was, and so we have that. So it's going to come down to defenses, which both these teams' defenses struggled last year. So it's who made the better decisions. If you ask me, for Atlanta, Seattle made the better acquisitions in Jamal, in Quentin Dunbar. And have we heard he can play, right? Like, we're still good there as far as
we don't know what they're going to do there. The depth chart.
Yeah, it's been a little sketchy.
Dunbar or Trey Flowers. Like, it seems like he's going to play, but I don't think we know yet.
Yeah, I don't think. Okay. So I think if you're looking at the strengths of the other team, Seattle came off a little bit better with that secondary because they throw so much. So I think that is definitely a plus. But however, we can't forget that Atlanta picked up is Dante Fowler too. And so that was an addition. So we have on the defense, but I think if you're looking at them without a question, the Falcons just throw the ball. They do rely on Matt Ryan so much, and he is so quick, but fingers crossed, first game of the year, we don't know, but hopefully then the additions that Seattle made for that secondary is going to become key for this.
Yeah. And Evan, I mean, the thing that it's not a specific matchup. I mean, I can go into matchups, and I wrote about some matchups, but the thing that concerns me most as a Seahawks fan is just week 1 on the road.
Yep, we have such a bad
about
record.
it being 10 a.m., but just like the Seahawks, you almost never get a good view of who this team is the first week. It's like a totally different team the first week of the season. And then you
get
get
4 weeks before you know who they are.
So like, I'm just like, oh man, I feel like we're going to be just biting our knuckles through the first half. Like, I cannot believe we're not beating this team, and it's going to let Atlanta hang in, and then it's going to be a tighter game than we want it to be. That's what it would concern me. I look at these teams, and to me, it's no question the Seahawks are the better team.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that does not mean that they're going to win. It does not mean they're going to win by a lot. So that's my biggest concern. It's not any specific matchup. It's that, that we don't see Russ come out and hit DK, in rhythm, or that, that there are just some blown coverages or something. That's the thing that would drive me crazy.
Yeah, I think what concerns me about this game the most, Brian, is Atlanta, for as much as they struggled last year, still has like a ton of high-powered, flashy talent on offense. In Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley, they just traded for Hayden Hurst. Like Matt Ryan is not bad. Like, he's still really good.
Yeah, he's not bad.
So like what we saw last year, where the Seahawks if you guys remember last year, the Seahawks went up 17 points and let them climb back into the game, and I think they only ended up winning by 3 or 7 points or something
24.
like that.
They were up 24-0, and they won 27-20.
I think it was the most painful game defensively they had all year.
I think
they got so far ahead.
And by the way, Marquise Blair was the starting safety.
Watching Matt Schaub go for like 400 yards was horrific.
You know what? Nothing. Oh, that was horrible. Nothing would encourage me more than to see the Seahawks. I don't care if it's via run, via pass, just keep their foot on the accelerator. Do not get conservative. Do not get relaxed if you build up a lead. Can we just kill a bad team for once?
I know. Well, that's what we all got excited about in this game, is like, oh my God, they're ahead 24-0. They're finally playing to their level and not to the level of their competition. And then they just did. It was so disappointing. But, those parts aren't the thing that's going to bug me as much. I guess what I really like, even the pass rush, we've talked about that a lot. I think, Jeff, your point about Matt Ryan, he really does get rid of the ball quickly. He is a tough guy to sack. So to me, like, judging this game by sacks is...
Can I turn this question around and ask you guys something?
Sacks. Let's say, can they impact them?
So let me turn this around.
Yeah.
One underrated storyline that we briefly mentioned is Quinton Dunbar has not technically earned that cornerback 2 spot yet. Fast forward to Sunday. Say Trey Flowers is the starting corner across Shaquille Griffin, who will be matching up mostly with Calvin Ridley.
Mm-hmm.
Does that change your prediction, whatever, the outcome of this game in your mind?
No.
Dana, you want to go first?
Yeah, I just say no. I don't think it does. And the reason being is because of what we used to see in Seattle. If a corner was having a bad game, a safety had their back. And that's always the way it was with Earl and Cam. Those guys could speak without ever muttering a word. And I have a feeling that within practice, that Jamal Adams and Quandre Diggs, we're not talking about Diggs very much. They can be enough of a cleanup crew to help Flowers if they need it. But I still think Quinton Dunbar starts on Sunday.
Brian?
Yeah, it's interesting. I definitely want Quinton Dunbar to be the starter, but I don't know that, to me, that's a material impact on this particular game. If you told me over the course of a season, I would say absolutely. But I'm just I'm not as sure about that one. I think Flowers wasn't a disaster last year. He just is a below average corner.
He got picked on though.
He did.
He did.
But I mean, he's played against these players before, so I'm not. That's not an end of the year thing.
Yeah, people were going a little crazy with that yesterday. You have to understand, Dunbar's missed a lot of time in camp. He wasn't with the team. Like, it's not that surprising if they have to ease him into action.
Yeah.
Like, it's nothing against. It's not a coaching mistake, or it's not a thing on Dunbar.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he had to go to that funeral. We weren't sure if he was going to play. You have to learn a new scheme. You have to get in shape. You have to go through COVID testing. Like Trey Flowers
He
has
had some
been here.
crap going on.
Yeah.
He really did.
This guy knows the scheme. Like it's not a big deal if it's just for 1 week.
And he's for lack of a better word, he's hell bent on proving it. Do you know what I mean? I mean, in some of his interviews, Trey has been like, I realize I'm fighting for this start. I think he was surprised when they got Dunbar. I don't think he expected that. And so he seems real fired up, and that maybe that'll bring out a better side of him. But like I said, clear back, when I very first did your show, having Trey Flowers as the backup, if Dunbar should get hurt, I'm not worried about that. That's a good thing because he had, and so if he's got to be in there, it doesn't give me fits of worry.
Yeah, I guess my point was about the pass rush is I almost come back to what Evan was saying before. It's the run defense that like almost to me starts this. If the run defense is atrocious, that's there's no excuses or explanations for that. That's just a really bad sign against
unless Gurley goes off. You have to remember.
Yeah, but Gurley going off, like Dana, it's the blockers in front of him. It's not the running back, right?
I agree.
Right, yeah. And they just don't have a great offensive line. And if the Seahawks struggle defending the run against this crew,
wait till they play the Niners.
Right.
There might be a signing. There might be a signing next week.
At the same time, we have to keep in mind, I think what happened here, because I was talking to my family about this, is what's going on with the Chiefs Texans. Do you honestly think the Texans expected to come out and have to worry about a run game in Kansas City? No, but that's once again the lack of a preseason. You have no idea what's going on there. So if it takes Seattle to the second quarter to get into the groove of that, I don't want you all to have a meltdown.
Oh, Dana, you don't even know what you're in for on Sunday.
Oh, my God.
Oh, my God, Dana. You think it's bad now?
I'm just going to mute it.
Yeah, you don't even know.
But, honestly, I will do the rare representing analytics Twitter here for a second. We'll see how well I do.
What in the hell is happening?
Yeah. I don't think that for most of the folks, they're saying don't run. And I think what you saw the Chiefs do tonight, it's not that they decided we're going to come in game plan to run. They're basically counting people in the box, and the Texans were trying to take away the pass. They had fewer guys in the box. Mahomes counts, and he has options in what he calls in the play. And if it's an advantage to run, he'll take it, and you'll take the 4 yards. And so I think a lot of folks on analytics Twitter would say, like, based on men in the box, running or passing can be a better or worse decision. The counter to that, I would say that a lot of folks who just parrot analytics Twitter and say, let Russ cook, and it's all about just passing all the time, don't understand that Russ is one of the guys a lot of times who's audibling to running plays. He is making the correct decision, and he is reading and getting them into better run positions. So I just don't think it's as simple, obviously, as a lot of folks want to make it.
I think it's quite simple. We need to cancel Russell Wilson. If that continues, we have to cancel him.
Quite simple, Evan.
You asshole! I softballed that one. God damn it!
I had to set you up there. So yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how the Seahawks defend the run. And as Jeff kind of hinted at, like first week, one of the other things that's different is veteran contracts aren't guaranteed after week 1. So there might
Schneider loves that.
Right? Schneider brings in those veterans after week 1. Yeah. So maybe we'll see snacks next week. Who knows? Okay, let's get into predictions here. With all that we know about what's going on in this game, no fans will be there. Can we agree just before we get into the predictions? Fans make a difference, even if there's 15,000 of them.
Yeah. No. You can see that on the TV.
No.
Oh my God.
Nope.
And
I've told you before, and I will tell you again. If 5,000 drunk, dumb football. Okay, what is the percentage in Atlanta?
It was 17,000. It was nothing.
There's 17,000 in Kansas City.
17,000 in Kansas City.
But what's it on Sunday for the Falcons?
0.
So there's no fans in that stadium.
No fans.
So why does it matter then?
Because at the Falcons, because we just watched a game tonight, and it was.
You think the fans impacted that game?
I do think they impacted that game.
No, but let's say it was and please Texans Twitter, don't freak out on me, but let's say it was a better team. So let's say it was the 49ers they were playing. Those 17,000 fans made a lot of noise. They made enough noise to be impactful. And so it's my opinion, and come at me if you want to, but that the NFL needed to make the decision. No, if one team can't have fans, no team can have fans until the other one too. I think that's competitive edge, and they shouldn't have been able.
Well,
to.
Don't get it twisted, Evan. It's not that if they didn't have fans or something that all of a sudden that's why the Chiefs won. It's not that.
No,
but
I'm not.
To say that it didn't affect snap counts and some of the early mistakes by the Texans.
Okay, so yes or no question.
It doesn't affect referees' calls when there's a pass interference and everyone goes, oh, and then just a little bit of psychology that they're going to throw that flag.
Yes or no answer. Did it make a significant impact tonight?
No.
Okay. So at least I understand your perspective a bit more. But I agree with you though. It should be consistent across the board, like regardless of the competitive edge piece. So
yeah. All right. So looking at this game, Seahawks last I saw were favored by 2 points. Game opened at 1 point. So it's up to 2. I think I also read that like 80% of the money or like some high
98.
98. Is it 98% of the money?
Recipe for disaster.
On the Seahawks?
I sent the 98%.
That means that Vegas really likes the Falcons in this game, right?
Vegas does, not the best.
Vegas loves the Falcons, but Vegas has been high on the Seahawks.
So knowing all that, where you got it? Evan, we're going to start with you. Give me a score for this game. Who wins and what's the score?
31-28 Seahawks.
All right.
Wait, didn't you predict them to lose in the prediction show?
No, that was me.
Oh, okay.
I hate that I have to maintain that.
No.
I don't care.
Did you change your mind?
You can change your mind. It's okay.
No, I'll be the outlier here.
Okay. Jeff, why don't you follow?
I don't know. I'll take my usual life approach to this where I'm just expecting the worst. And I can just see us after the game wondering like why the hell Trey Flowers played and why are we're going crazy about Jaron Reed and Clowney. And so I'm going to say Matt Ryan has a pretty good game. And they beat us 26-24 in a game where we took a little too long to get the passing offense going. And
can I ask you a follow-up question to that?
Yeah.
So like you kind of touched on it, but like in your mind for the Falcons to win on Sunday, what one thing has to happen? It could be on the Falcons side. For the Falcons to win, what one thing has to happen? It could be on the Seahawks side. It could be on the Falcons side.
The Falcons are able to control the game on offense, and the Seahawks can impact them defensively.
And I assume that's more from like a pass rush pressure perspective.
It could be run the ball up the middle.
Okay.
Because if the Seahawks can't make an impact on the game and force them into tough situations,
sure,
that plays right into Atlanta's hand. So that's where you need Jamal Adams to come off some exotic blitzes. And Joe Fans talked a lot about how Adams gets a sack almost every day in practice, he said. So that kind of says that maybe Seattle is using him closer to how the Jets were and maybe not doing that traditional basic defense that they got called out for. And I think Pete took a little offense to that. I think they're going to try to use him a little differently. So I think Seattle just has to impact the game. And the thing we talked about their defense in general last year, and we talked about with Bobby, is they need impact plays. And Bobby didn't have those last year. And they need guys that are flash players and guys that blow up plays. And without Clowney, they need new guys to do that. So if they can't do that, Atlanta's going to win the game.
Yeah, Dana, how about you? Give me your score. And I'm gonna have one more question for you guys before we sign off. Usually the predictions are last, but I Evan's question sparked an idea. So what's your score? Who wins?
35-24 Seattle, and defense gets a touchdown.
Ooh, I love that.
Who gets the touchdown?
Yeah. Don't say Clowney.
Or group.
Clowney. Clowney, no.
He scored all our touchdowns on defense.
Yeah, I think Quandre Diggs gets it.
I love that call out. No one is talking about him. He was so good last year.
I love Quandre Diggs.
Yeah.
He's on the last year of his deal.
No, one more.
Yeah, he has one more year after this one. He goes through 21.
That deal was so good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, that deal is so good.
I've got the Seahawks 27-24 winning. And the last question I've got for you guys before we wrap is what's the one thing that you think is the key for the Seahawks to win? And I'll just start by saying, there's different elements of the game I could name, but really I think the Seahawks have to score at least 27 points. I do not think this is a game where they can like defend their way to victory or crawl around. They're going to have to score. And it might be that they even have to score 30, but I think that they're going to have to score at least 27 points to win this game. Jeff, how about you? What's your key to the game for the Seahawks?
So I'll kind of take a different element to what you were saying. And if you guys remember the opener last year with Cincinnati, the Seahawks offensive line was a total train wreck. Mm-hmm. And it was a group we were all kind of optimistic about after the jump they made in Solari's first year. And so for the Seahawks to win this game, their offensive line has to look somewhat functional and somewhat decent. And they can't be a train wreck, because if they are, there's just too many elements for disaster. And Dante Fowler, Tack McKinney, Grady Jarrett, those guys can blow up a game like Dunlap and Atkins did in that Cincinnati game. So if this O-line is not functional, they're not going to win the game. And if it is, they will.
That's a great one. I like that.
That inside group, the center and two guards, is really going to be tested with Grady Jarrett on the interior. Damian Lewis could be an X factor on Sunday. He really could be.
Is that what's your number one key factor for the Seahawks?
I think you gotta build a wall around Russell Wilson. Like Jeff said, those corners are untested, and the safe, what's his name? The safety that's coming back from injury. He's good, but he's coming back from injury. I think you have to test him and pick on him a little bit and air it out. I think this is a game actually that Metcalf would. I know that sounds kind of obvious to say, but I could see Metcalf beating them over the top a couple times.
Oh yeah,
he's so tall.
Yeah, 150 yards, 2 touchdowns. That's what I got in my head. Dana, how about you? Finish us up here.
I think they need to get ahead and stay ahead. I think that this is not something you want to have to come from behind in the fourth quarter, no matter how confident I usually feel, no matter what the score is going into the fourth quarter with this team. But Matt Ryan is such a good vet. He's such a solid quarterback. I think that he would be able to keep ahead if they get there. So I think Seattle really needs to get ahead and stay ahead throughout the whole game.
I love it. All right, everybody. If you haven't already, now is a perfect time. Go on YouTube, click the subscribe button, click on the little bell to get notified when we go live, because just like we did tonight, we will move this around wherever we feel like it, whenever we feel like it, because we just like talking Seahawks and we get inspired to do so. So don't miss a show. Make sure you're subscribed. A lot of folks been joining over on patreon.com/hawkblogger. It's $5. Join up at $5. Money goes to a great cause, and you get added to our Slack channel where, you can bug us whenever you want. And we'll talk more Seahawks there. So that's an obvious thing to do. Other folks have been asking where to get us on other podcasting apps. We're on Spotify, we're on iTunes, we're on Google Play. Pretty much anywhere you go to get a podcast, you can find us. So search for Hawk Blogger, search for Real Hawk Talk. You should find it. And obviously go over to hawkblogger.com. All the information's there. All the articles are there as we get ready to wind up this 2020 Seahawks season. It's going to be awesome. Looking forward to, yes, Evan?
We should say we are looking forward to the postgame show on Sunday, because that is happening 20 minutes after the game, assuming we're all not in a super pissed off state and are super depressed. So
that is true.
Leave that contingency.
You will also get yet another conversation about this game tomorrow when Softy and I do our weekly podcast. So tons and tons of content. Happy to be back, and everyone take care of yourselves, take care of your loved ones, and go Hawks.